Recording in progress.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would like to call the Milton Planning Commission meeting of July 24th, 2024 to order. This is a regular meeting of the City of Milton Planning Commission. I am Chair Judy Birds. This is a 7-member commission appointed by the City of Milton Mayor and City Council, created for the purpose of holding public hearings and making recommendations on rezoning, use permits, concurrent variance applications, comprehensive land use plan and plan map, and other related plans and amendments to the zoning ordinance. In attendance tonight, we have Commissioner Vic Jones, Commissioner Sumit Shah, Commissioner Brian McNeese, Commissioner Kurt Nolte, Commissioner Trey James. Absent this evening is Commissioner Fred Edwards. Do we have public comment today?
No, we have no general public comment.
Okay.
Oh, we need also the adoption of the agenda. Okay.
Yep. So are there any changes to the agenda? Okay, no changes to the agenda. Since we will be hearing rezonings and use permits tonight, I'm going to read a little background. There are some guidelines regarding the timing for this, so if you'll listen along. Consideration of rezoning and use permits. The petitions will be heard in the sequence listed on the published agenda. I would like to acquaint you with some of the rules and procedures conducting this meeting. The applicant and all those speaking in support of an application will be allowed a total of 10 minutes to present the petition. The applicant may choose to save some of the time for rebuttal following the presentation by the opposition. The opposition will be allowed a total of 10 minutes to present its position. If time remains, the opposition will be allowed to rebut. Since the burden of proof is upon the applicant will be allowed to make closing remarks, providing time remains within the allotted time. The staff of the Community Development Department will be keeping track of time and will inform you periodically of the remaining time for your presentation. Each speaker must fill out a speaker card. Can you show what that looks like, Emily? Thank you. So each speaker must fill out a speaker card before speaking and leave it with a staff member of the Community Development Department, Ms. Emily or Ms. Robin. All speakers will identify themselves by name, address, and organization, if applicable, before beginning their presentation. When any opponent of a rezoning action has made within 2 years immediately preceding the filing of the rezoning action being opposed, campaign contributions aggregating $250 or more to a local government official of the local government which will consider the application, it shall be the duty of the opponent to file a disclosure with the governing authority of the respective local government at least 5 days prior to the Planning Commission meeting. A violation of this relevant state statute constitutes a misdemeanor. Therefore, if you have contributed $250 or more to a council member and you have not filed a disclosure prior to this Planning Commission meeting, the city attorney strongly suggests that you have someone else speak for your point of view. Each application has been properly filed with the Community Development Department. Signs have been posted on each site. The matter has been advertised, and the notices have been mailed to property owners affected by this zoning as required by the Milton zoning ordinance. The Planning Commission's recommendation will be forwarded to the City of Milton Mayor and City Council for final disposition at a forthcoming meeting here in Council Chambers. The Community Development Department has reviewed each application in conjunction with various agencies and departments, both internal and external to the city, if applicable. Community Development Department's recommendations, findings, and conclusions are here before us in written form, which has been made available to all petitioners and to the public. Demonstration of any sort within the council chambers is prohibited, so please refrain from any applause, dialogue with the person speaking, or outburst. Please turn off all cell phones or place them on silent. All remarks will be addressed by the Planning Commission. Please show the same respect to the person speaking that you will expect to receive yourself. In addition, the applicant shall not submit material to the Planning Commission during the meeting unless requested to do so by the commission. All material that you wish to be reviewed by the commission in consideration of your application should be submitted to the staff of the Community Development Department to be included in the normal distribution of packages to the commission. Finally, to the applicant, if your petition is deferred by the Planning Commission in accordance with the Milton zoning ordinance, you are required to update or obtain a new sign for reposting. Failure to update or repost will result in further delay. There are no exceptions. So we have no changes to the agenda. Is that correct? Next item on the agenda.
You'll need to adopt the agenda.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
I move to adopt the agenda as written.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Nolte, seconded by Commissioner McNeese. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Next is a consideration of the minutes of the meeting of June 26, 2024. Any comments or requests for clarification? I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the June 26, 2024 action minutes with no changes.
Second.
It was moved by Commissioner McNeese, seconded by Commissioner James to approve the action minutes of June 26th. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries 6-0. Next up on the agenda, general public comment. Have we received any general public comment?
We have not.
We have not. So first up on the agenda then will be the consideration of the preliminary plat for Mascari Estates.
Madam Chair, excuse me. Madam Chair.
Yep, I've got something I have to read.
Okay, thank you.
So preliminary plats. The Planning Commission is tasked by the city's subdivision ordinance to conduct a public hearing on proposed preliminary plats that have been found to be complete by the Community Development Department. At the conclusion of the public hearing, the Planning Commission is required to review the proposed preliminary plat and provide comments and make recommendations regarding the plat to the Community Development Director. The Planning Commission does not approve or reject the proposed preliminary plat, but merely provides comments or recommendations based on the public hearing and the Planning Commission's review of the proposed preliminary plat. Oh, Ms. Tracy.
Good evening. How are
Good
you?
evening.
So the preliminary plat for tonight is for Mascari Estates. This development is 10.82 acres located on Thompson Road. It is zoned AG1. The land is undeveloped, and the proposed use is for 7 single-family detached homes with a density of 0.65 units per acre. The location map on the right shows the development on the eastern side of Thompson. It's flanked on the north by Country Ridge subdivision and on the south by Potterstone subdivision. The site plan for the development, again, 10.82 acres. 7 single-family lots are being proposed. Lot sizes range from 1 acre to 1.78 acres. And there is a dedicated lot for detention. The grading plan for the development does show a divided entrance, which is intentional. There are a large stand of oak trees along this entrance and along the divided area here. So that would be in an effort to conserve those. There's also a proposed mail kiosk, a common gang mail kiosk located just before the division of the entrance. The applicant provided a fire access plan, which shows the divided ingress egress lanes as one lane, 18 foot in width. And the red access path is identified for fire access to make sure that an apparatus is able to traverse that entrance. The development will be gated, and there will be a Knox key switch on that gate for fire access. The preliminary plat as presented does meet all of the code and our requirements. We have community development staff here for questions as well as the applicant, and we welcome any questions and/or thoughts or concerns now.
Great. Anybody have any questions for Tracy at this time, or would you like to hear from the applicant and the others first?
Okay, not at this time.
Applicant? Okay. Yeah, come on.
I want to thank everybody
And
for,
just state your name.
my name is Danny Muscari, and I'm the one who's going to design this. My address is 1056 North Drive, Merrick, New York, 11566. Each of these homes are going to be beautiful. Say it again?
Yeah.
Oh, each of these homes are going to be beautiful. And I will preserve a lot of the trees that's going to be in that community. But I also, where we're going to build the homes are where we're going to remove some of the trees. And I think this development will bring a lot of value to Milton Homes, because I looked at the area, I fell in love with Milton. I look at the area where, homes are building in Milton, the style in Milton. So I will keep those homes gorgeous. I can promise you that. I'm looking forward to move to here. I'm planning to open a restaurant in Alpharetta. So it's been a dream for me to come here and live in Milton. I do have a business that I'm a social worker. I have a business in New York where I have 500 employees working with autistic kids. It's been always for me to help someone. So I think this time I'm helping myself because I want to have a beautiful home and I want it to be done in Milton. So if you guys gave me the opportunity to create this home, I can promise you, you guys will never regret it. That's the only thing I can say. Thank you so much.
We might have more questions for you, but at this time, is there anyone else speaking in support?
We do have also, I want to tell you, there's the 10 acre that's in the back. We're putting that in conservation. We only building the front part.
Hi. My name is Barry Dunlop. I'm with Paradigm Engineering. I'm sorry, Barry Dunlop with Paradigm Engineering. I'm the civil engineer that designed this subdivision. And I want to say that I want to thank the staff here at Milton. You all have been very gracious in time and meeting with me and discussing the needs for this property and the needs for this particular plat. And I do appreciate all the time with the staff so far. This particular piece of property does have some challenging topography, and we've laid out this subdivision in the best way that we can see to work with not only the topography, but also some of the existing trees that we want to try to save. The site does flow from the east side to from the west side to the east side. So the detention system is in the lowest portion of the property. The intent with that detention system is to be a master pond to handle all of the water quality, stormwater management needs for not only the street, but all the improvements of the homes that are proposed for those lots. We've designed that pond to handle the maximum amount of impervious area that's allowed in Milton for each lot. So even if a lot, say, is only built to, say, about 80% of its allowable impervious area, the detention system is designed to handle 100% of the allowed impervious area for that lot. So hopefully in the end, it'll basically be a conservative designed system. And like we said earlier, the intention is to have a gated community and with the Knox box systems to allow for emergency access without having to with easily opening up a gated system. So, if there are any engineering questions, I'll be glad to answer those.
We may have some.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Want to call the next speaker?
John, you want to, Levin, you want to speak? Oh, thank you. Johnson.
Good evening. My name is John Blevins. I live at 2145 Country Ridge Road. I'm president of the Country Ridge Homeowners Association. Some of you on the commission are new faces that others know, but this has been a situation we've been dealing with, our community as well as the Potterstone community, for over 20 years. Based on the information that I've been given and the development of the front 10.82 acres, the quality homes that are going to far exceed what's already in the area other than Greystone Farms, will be an asset to the community. And based on what I've been told, if this is the case and all is executed and that everything has been made to code, then we support this development.
Clint Johnson.
Good evening. I'm Clint Johnson. I'm a resident of
Can you state
North
your-
Valley, which is across the Thompson Road from the entrance to this subdivision. Let me go on record as saying right now, I am not opposed to this subdivision being developed.
Can you state your
33
exact-
years
Can
of,
you state your exact address, please? Your exact address?
oh, I'm sorry, 1955 Drummond Pond Road, Milton, Georgia. For 33 years, I've looked at this sort of messy site out right across from our entrance into North Valley, and it's been an eyesore. And there's a lot of things that have gone on with it. I'm here to speak about a couple concerns. Number one, lot number 3 looks awful close to a body of water. I hope that there isn't any intrusion on the 75-foot setback on that. There was a hearing back in, I believe it was '08 with Negrelli and Associates who owned this property. And they got a variation from the planning committee to go inside the 75 foot. I don't know if that's still in effect or not. Okay, that's number one. But the big thing is this, does everybody know what this property was originally? Is there anybody who does know or doesn't know? It was a dump. It's full of car batteries, tires, all kinds of junk underground. I wonder if the developer has taken that into consideration, that there's going to be a cleanup done. It's going to have to be done before they can put any houses up. You can't build houses over dumps. But it was a dump for about 20 years. The owner of the property before Negrelli applied for a permit for a dump. He had operated without it for about 20 years. But things started getting a little tight on him, and he applied for a permit with Fulton County shortly before we became a city. He was denied permission to have a dump there. I really think there should be some thought given to a cleanup of the property before any building or development goes on. In a way, I'm not speaking for me, I'm speaking for the future buyers of those homes. It can really work out bad if that property isn't properly prepared for houses. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Victor Fetties. Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Victor Fettis. My address is 451 Kelton Hill Court in Milton, Georgia, 30004. That is part of the Potterstone subdivision. My property borders this property at the very back edge near the back of Lot 3 where the water runs. And so I have several concerns that I would like to voice. I'm not opposed to the overall development of the land. Just want to make sure that we clarify a few items. The first being, I believe that this plat shows, from what I could see on our piece, a fence line running along the Country Ridge side, on the north side of this property, but not on the south side of the property. So I would like to see something that would be more consistent, where it would be similar on both sides of the properties. And then there's two lots within this subdivision that appear to have shorter setbacks from the neighboring homes. Those would be Lot 1 and Lot 3. Lot 1 appears to be a 25-foot versus a 50-foot setback from the back of the homes in Country Ridge. And then Lot 3 has 25 instead of 50 from the homes in Potterstone as well. So those would be my concerns with the plat as it shows today. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Tom Gauger.
Good evening. My name is Tom Gauger. My wife, Kim, and I are residents of Potterstone. We live at 422 Calton Hill Court. I think on the drawing, we're kind of shown between lots, I guess it would be 4 and 5. That would be ours. We're lot number 4 in Potterstone. So I come before the committee. I really support development in the community. The gentleman from North Valley spoke of kind of the history of this site. My wife and I have been residents of Potterstone for 24 years, and we've lived in Milton for 35. So we have kind of seen what's happened with the site. In addition to the environmental issues that were raised by the gentleman, I can also speak to the fact that there are berry pits on this land, because when the county ordered that the site be cleared of the little white house that was there and the well, they basically dug a hole, buried everything. So that kind of soils condition is not suitable for home construction, so that needs to probably be explored if it hasn't already. So that's one of the concerns that I raise, and we don't want to have, I mean, we like nice homes, but we also want them not to have structural or foundation problems, because that would take away from the value of those homes. So that was one of the concerns I wanted to raise. Victor mentioned the fence. That was also on my list. So to be consistent, that there be fence on both the north property line bordering Country Ridge, as well as the south property line at Potter Stone. I noticed in the portal, and this is more of a question, the property owner or the historic owner is not shown for privacy reasons, and I'd like to understand from committee why that is. There's a long history of ownership with this property going back to Negrelli and the prior owner before that used it as a dump. So we'd like to understand what that's about. I think the other question on the engineering drawing is, where is the proposed preliminary plat drawing with the notes that were approved from the meeting? I think that was held, was it August 26th of 2020? I would think that the plat would reference the plans that and the comments that were made. I think some of them are incorporated in the drawing, but maybe not all captured. So I would ask that the committee review that to make sure that all of the terms and conditions that were agreed to. I guess I'm changing the screen. Yeah, I know. Going backward, huh? There we go. So I would just ask that those notes be reviewed and make sure that they're referenced on the drawing. I mean, it's good that people agree to them, but I think it's important that it be correct on the drawing as well. The preservation, the canopy, the preservation of trees. I don't know when the last time an arborist was out to take a look at the property to measure the trees and determine which ones are specimen. But, if it was done years ago, these trees have grown up. So we want to make sure that there's been a current study done, so we can understand that, because we've watched, it just continues to grow. I mean, you go out there now and it's a full-blown forest when, 15 years ago that site was cleared. So I think that's something that also needs to be referenced. And then also, I agree with the comments that were made about lots 1 and 3. There seems to have been some agreement or a variance given to property owner about the setbacks for those 2 lots. And I would be concerned about those lots being able to encroach upon neighboring properties in both those 2 subdivisions. So those are my comments. So I would respectfully ask that you take those into consideration. Thank you.
That's it. Great. Any questions for staff or the applicants?
Can you provide any additional information on the setbacks for Lot 3 and Lot 1 and why they're showing at 25 feet versus 50?
I can give an explanation for that. So in the ordinance, the front setback is always determined on the geometry of the shape of the lot. So for instance, on Lot 1, the front setback, the shortest front distance is along Thompson Road. The other distance or frontage is along Muscary Lane. So this would not be considered the front setback. It would be considered a side corner. Anytime we have a lot that is adjacent to 2 roads or drives, then we look at the shortest distance, which in this case is Thompson Road, which would be the front setback, which is 60 feet. And then the other corner side setback, the other frontage on Muscary Way would be a side corner. So this would be a 40-foot front, a 60-foot front along Thompson Road. The rear setback is always opposite the front setback. So 60 feet would be along Thompson, The front setback would be the 50-foot setback here. Where like along lot 7, the 60-foot front setback is here because this is the shortest frontage on a road. This would be the longest frontage. So the front 60-foot would be along Muscary Way. Opposite this front setback is a 50-foot rear setback along the southern property line. Likewise, for lot 3, the front setback would be along this cul-de-sac here on the frontage of Muscary Way. The opposite for the rear setback would be here along the stream buffer. So you would have a 25-foot side setback in this area and a side setback here along the southern property line and this new lot line here within the development.
I'd further state that in this ordinance, it states there's only one rear, but we can have multiple sides. So one would ask, well, why don't you make it a rear? Well, it says in the code, it's very specific to geometry. It has nothing to do with variances. It has nothing to do with arbitrary putting something down. It's based on the shape of the lot and the distance along each frontage. So.
And just want to confirm on lot 3, it is a 75-foot setback on the rear.
It is. Let me see if I can blow this up a little bit. So that is correct. So along,
Yeah, the impervious setback.
right, so you see the orange dash lines? This represents a 75-foot impervious setback here, 50-foot undisturbed buffer, which is the city buffer here, and then the state 25 buffer in this area. So 75 feet from the center line of the stream.
Tracy, in looking at this plat, are the trees that are noted the trees that are going to be retained?
So I believe, and Barry, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe a partial survey was done, tree survey, where they did not survey each individual tree. They simply highlighted the specimen trees that were identified on the site. And this survey is a representation of those specimen trees identified.
So these are all the specimen trees?
Correct.
There weren't any, what I'll call down the road, through the middle, that were found?
There are other ones there. You can see there's some highlighted here. See those light gray circles here and here. There's some other specimen trees that are back over here. There's some specimen trees that are down here. See, they're just light gray circles. Those are the specimen trees that were picked up and trees of significance that were picked up by our arborist, Alex Phillips. And but we've not done a survey that would pick up every tree 6 inches and greater or 8 inches and greater, just the ones that were that were of specimen or trees of quality.
Barry, when was this last done?
Just a few months ago.
Can you speak louder?
I'm sorry, just a few months ago, sometime in the spring. I think maybe whenever we started the submittal process, probably would have been like maybe March or February.
And at what point did they submit these specimen trees will be retained, these will be replenished? Is
Okay.
that during LDP? Or?
Yes, during LDP. And actually what's going to happen is we're going to do an LDP for the road and the infrastructure. So we're going to grade the road in, build the pond, put in the storm pipe, put in the water lines, and retain as much of the existing lot area as we can. And then we'll come back later on and do an individual LDP for each lot as we have the architecture for each lot designed, and then I design all the grading around that lot. The hope would be to maintain as much of the tree cover between the lots as possible. We do know that we have to have a septic system, so a septic system is going to take out a certain amount of the area that's not represented by the lot, by the home itself. And so chances are that you'll see there's going to be some other specimen trees that may have to come down, but that's going to be on an individual lot basis as we determine the architecture and the design around that particular lot. The specimen trees that are going to come down for the infrastructure, I don't have a good answer for that right now because I don't have that completely designed, but we're trying to maintain the ones that we have in that sort of large green circular space here in the front. I think there might be one up in the front area, back in this area, that might have some get into the root system as we pull this road in, the grading for this road in. But once again, I haven't completely designed the grading for this entire road yet. I'm about 75% there. So I do know that we will lose some trees for the infrastructure. That's for sure, and we'll probably lose a specimen tree, but that will be handled through the LDP process and making sure that we meet all the Milton codes for planting trees back and tree removal.
While we have you here, who owns the land east of the detention pond, between the detention pond and the stream?
I believe that owner, his name is Michael Long.
Okay. Because I'm noting that the conduit for the drainage for the detention pond to the stream extends over that property.
Yes, I noticed that too. Where's that? Okay, you're talking about this right here. Yes, I want to say that my engineer got a little ecstatic about how to drain out of that pond, and that missed my review. I noticed that just the other night as I was going through plans with actually Mr. Long himself. We're in discussion about how to work and screen this pond system and how to work with his property. And so that pipe this is a real early concept on the design of this detention system. I don't have it completely designed yet. Like I said, that'll come through with the LDP, but that pipe will be pulled out of his property during the LDP process. I'm sorry, just visually it showed up there and I missed it when we submitted the plans.
One of the other public comments was related to maybe a prior applicant, a prior plat for this in 2020. Was it for the same applicant or a different applicant?
I believe that was a different applicant. This is a completely new applicant, and we've looked at some of the early preliminary plat elements to this, but we've sort of started over completely from scratch. That was the intent, is to make something completely that stands alone from any of the earlier histories of this property.
So I'll make a comment. So that plat that it was never, there were a lot of obviously points that the commenter made that was a list of items that the Planning Commission had made at the time. I think Mr. Nolte would remember that. I think and Mr. Shaw. And so basically the developer at the time tried to go back and forth, try to deal with it. They were trying to basically bridge over to the two lots in Greystone Lakes. Obviously, there was a lot of issues with that. That's why it was, I think, 2 pages of comments that you all had produced for them. And in the end, they gave up that idea. And we have an expiration. It was never even approved by the Community Development Department or by the director, because that's what the ordinance says. And so basically that proposal's dead. This is a new one. And I'm sure that the applicant did look at some of the comments, and I think it's made for a better proposed subdivision, but it doesn't mean that you have to put in all those same comments, because this is a different plan and it has a different outcome as far as not utilizing the 2 lots from the back as well. So
Understood. Just want to make sure we.
yeah.
I had a question about that, because I think the applicant mentioned that she's putting some land in a conservatory.
Right.
Is that land back there?
Yes. So when Ms. Muscari purchased this property along with the 2 lots of Greystone Lakes, it came with a package, right? That was everything that the developer had. And so she is committed to put those 2 lots, even though there's no connection here, she wants to reassure the community that that won't be developed. And so there's one of 2 ways that she and her attorney will be looking to put it into conservation, either with the state or possibly utilize our city transfer development rights where you put it into conservation. And there is a option to be able to say there will be no houses built there. Because typically when people have TDRs and create TDRs, they usually have a house on the 5 acres, right? So there is an avenue that she can be committed to no houses. But again, that's in the works. So she is committed to doing that. I've spoken to her attorney about that, and there are conversations ongoing. So
it is documented and committed, because
well, I mean, it's not documented because there's nothing official yet. I'm just saying there has been discussions and serious discussions.
Okay, because to me, that's kind of an important piece
Right.
going forward. I hate to go along with this and so, oops, never mind.
And so let me just, and there also was like a tail that she also owns that was part of, I always get them confused, Potterstone, on a lot in Potterstone. And that was done, it was deeded illegally in the sense of it went against the HOA regulations. It was never recorded with us and was never platted with us. And she's committed to basically deeding it back to that lot so that there is total separation between this 10 acres in the front and then the 2 lots in the back.
Okay.
So,
What
and
about
she can attest to that. I don't want to speak for her. You can have her come up and ask about that as well, but.
And before we go to that question, there was a question about a fence line, and that's probably just what showed up here on the topo plan. There's an existing fence that's here on the backside of lot 2 and the detention lot that belongs to owner of lot 3 in the northern subdivision. That's what's showing up as a fence. Right now, there are no plans to fence this neighborhood in its entirety as a subdivision fence. I'm sure if a homeowner wants to come in and after their home is built, if they want to put a fence up in their backyard, I'm sure they'll just have to comply with whatever the fence regulations are for that individual lot. But there's no intention to fence the entire neighborhood that at this level of the design.
Okay.
And this guy, I think you said you were planning to occupy one of these homes?
Yes, lot number 3.
Okay, great.
I think that's the biggest one, and I love it.
Fair enough. Then I just had.
When I wanna add something. When I bought the lots, I never planned to build the bridge on the side. I really didn't care about the lots in the back. And if you look at how much it would cost to build the bridge, it will be close to $3 million for a bridge. So if it's only 2 lots in the back to build the bridge for $3 million, how much would you be selling the house for? So my main concern was the lot in the front. And that's what my concern was. And that's what we are here today. I spoke to an attorney, which we began the process of conservation. And within 2 weeks, everything should be totally in process. Yeah.
So will those lots have any access at all? Will there be any access to those lots at all, or will they all be landlocked?
No, you would have to build a bridge to get access to the 2 lots in the back.
Yeah, there is a small piece that Ms. Muscari purchased that Mr. Negrelli had purchased years ago to try to connect it. And I think there's discussions about trying to give that back to that lot. So there would be separation. There'd be no way to get over there physically, like a bridge, yes, other than walking her property across the
Right, but it could
floodplain.
just, but if somebody wanted hiking trails or something
Yeah,
and
right.
make some use of that, there would be access to that or not really?
There's the idea it would still be private property.
Yeah, it's
just
her
in
private
a
property,
conservation.
so
Right, but
yeah.
if she wanted to.
It would be,
subdivision,
if she wants to use it for her neighborhood, they could, yeah.
I wanted to even give the property back to Greystone if they wanted to. But I guess because of it cost me $20,000 in taxes, I don't think Greystone wanted to take it back. At the beginning, I said, Greystone can have it if they want to, since it's their property. But I don't think Greystone wants it back because of the fact that it comes with taxes. So, but the conservation is where we're going right now.
And then, were you aware of the previous use of that site, the potential problems or that might exist with what's buried in there?
No, but when we did the soil test, nothing came up on that.
Okay.
You know, everything was fine on that. We did a lot of surveys, soil test was done, and then when we did the survey to see if those homes can have basement on them, if we can do basement, everything was fine on them.
Right.
Yeah.
But just, you're going into this knowing that might be an issue. We don't
Yes.
know till
But
we
when
start.
we're building those homes, if we find tires, of course we're gonna clean it out. You know. Yeah.
And what's the city's role in that? If they find, somebody mentioned car batteries or things like that, do we, part of land disturbance?
If it's
use-
on no, it's
So we
private
don't-
property, you have to deal with. It's a funny thing you would say that. I live in a almost 40 year old subdivision. It's built by a tract builder. We just had to have excavated like 20 feet down in our backyard, loads and loads of trees because they didn't want to take them off the lot. So, you know, we were responsible for it. We can't tell City of Alpharetta, hey, I got a bunch of crap in my yard. So it's each private person's.
And I wanted to add, every survey we did showed the properties in good condition.
Okay.
We can build, every single home can build a basement of 10 feet in there. So every single survey we did shows that the property's it's in good shape. If we built a home, they're not gonna fall off. Everything is good.
Yeah, I just had one other question. It's more aesthetics. You know, with the mail kiosk, I'm just looking from the street view off of Thompson. I wonder if you'd entertain moving the mail kiosk to the back so it's not the first thing you see when you look in there.
Yes.
There's just again, a very minor issue there. or
Okay.
Concern.
And will the design of the homes all be by one designer or individual? Are you going to sell each lot
No, we're
individually?
not. We're gonna build every single home. I actually
Okay.
have one of those homes. I don't know if you guys wanna see the
Okay.
design. It's breathtaking. Breathtaking. Do you want me to show you the design? Okay, I can show it to you.
So, Madam Chair, in the meantime, we have had one or two additional people who would like to speak, and the city attorney says it's up to you what you want to do.
Yeah, so while we're waiting, how does the committee feel about allowing 2 additional speakers after the start?
Yeah,
Okay.
we're here.
So I'd like to make a motion that we open up for 2 additional comments on this, 2, maybe 3.
I'll second.
Mhm.
Oh,
Can you
okay.
put it on the
Yeah, you have to
overhead
put
so
it on the
can-
thing. Oh, yeah.
So I had a motion to open it up for 2 to 3 additional comments from Commissioner Nolte and a second from,
No, you motioned, I seconded.
I motioned, you second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes 6-0. So we will take those additional comments once we figure out how to.
Idea of what's,
This is one of the homes that's gonna be on lot number 3. I can show you the home that I fell in love with. And then I had my architect design this house for me to actually fit the same way. I went to a place called Lost River Bend. I fell in love with Lost River Bend, so I say, I want to create a Lost River Bend everywhere in Milton.
Actually, one of our commissioners live in Lost River.
Yeah. This is how, when we finish, this is how the house is going to look like.
Oh.
This is how it's going to look like.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. I promise you guys, I'm going to make Milton gorgeous. You know, I'm going to do my best to, you know, build those homes beautiful. I've been working so hard in New York to actually make this happen. So it's gonna be a beautiful homes in there.
Awesome.
It's in
On
the
lots
lot
number
three.
3. On lots number 3, this home will be in it. And then the architect is also designing for every single lot.
We have 2 additional comments.
Thank you.
Emily, if you'll call the first person.
Tony Lair, please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
And we did say 2 to 3, and there might be one more coming, so, okay.
Hello. Okay, so my name is Tony Lair, and I live on 14510 Thompson, which happens to be just across a little bit diagonal to the proposed property. I guess my first question is, since there's some concern about the risk of having some kind of hazardous waste on the property, has there been an assessment and an abatement estimate? When you disturb hazardous waste, you have to take it with some concern.
We'd have to ask the applicant. The city hasn't done anything, but we can have the applicant's engineer come up and address it. I think the applicant did address it, that they have done soil studies, but
I'll make a comment on that. So many Milton residents probably remember the park on Providence Road, how much hazardous waste was found in that property. And when you disturb property that has hazardous waste, the abatement process and the risk to the community is rather significant if it's large enough and dangerous enough.
Thank you.
Sandra Fairs, please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Hello there. My name is Sandra Ferris. My husband and I and family live at 2065 Country Ridge Road, and my neighbor Lane lives next door to 2075. We will be directly behind Lot 1. And I don't know if any of y'all remember the last applicants. I spoke then also because Lot 1 is the only lot that they're trying to designate the backyard as a side yard and limit the 50-foot buffer and turn it into a 25-foot buffer. So I'm going to limit my comments to 60 seconds. And while we really think it's great that people make money on the building, we don't like that it might enrich somebody's pockets to the detriment of some people who live in a neighborhood subdivision. And we'd like for you to realize this and internalize it and know that if it was your house, you would be asking the same thing, or your property. And notice that if your house was sitting behind the only house in the subdivision that it was reduced to, you'd be commenting also. So we'd like for you to deny that 20-foot side yard request, or have the company take care and turn it back into a 50-foot buffer. And after looking at it, the lot, I think maybe you could move the retention pond down. I don't know the exact size of the retention pond, but also I'd like to ask for our neighborhood that they implement some kind of mosquito control for that detention pond. That's all I've got to say. Thank you.
There's
Robin, can
one
I ask,
more.
can I ask a question? Robin, of Robin, no, sorry. Are there any screening requirements in between the neighborhoods? Any?
there is not, no.
No tree
No,
planting?
no, not between two AG1 lots, no.
Okay.
Well, and just to be clear again, on the setback of the side yard or backyard of 1, there's no variances. There's nothing that's per code. The way it's drawn here is per code. Is that correct?
Correct, yes. It's just the way the geometry is and the shape of the lot.
Yep.
So
And I think my motion was for 2 to 3 speakers, and it sounds like we have a third.
There's one more.
Okay.
Tyler Young.
It's supposed to be. So my name is Tyler Young. I live at 432 Calton Hill Court, neighbors with Tom, who spoke earlier. I'm from Oregon. I moved here in September. I did one subdivision myself in Oregon, and it was Country Living Lane. And we actually had 5-acre lots on a 25-acre spacing. So when I look at this subdivision and have done one myself, it gravely concerns me that this was a dump site, because Portland Sand and Gravel was my client. They filled a big area, and you cannot build on that area. So I'm wondering if there's a responsibility of the council and the city, because we know that this was here. We know a house was buried there. We know a well was buried there. It's a little different because she spoke to a neighborhood where they found trees later that started to cave in. We know this is a problem. So is there any responsibility by the city to address that and require that in the subdivision? I do want to say I don't oppose any subdivision, but I do think we should look at the safety, considering the fact that this is a known issue. And I don't know if there's any rules, because I don't know them, being from Oregon, but we do preserve a lot of trees in Oregon. So I would love to see as much preservation. She mentioned her plan is to preserve it. Can that be in writing? Can we get an extra setback? I think you guys just asked if you can preserve trees like 10 or 20 feet back off the side, but Milton is a pretty area. We like to keep it that way. I think the homeowners would enjoy that. The neighboring subdivisions would enjoy that. So I don't know if it's within your power, but I would ask you to consider that if you can. Thank you.
Robin, do we have confirmation that it was a dump site? Is that a
I
known?
was not aware of that, but it doesn't mean that's not the fact. So we would have to do a little bit of research to
Yeah.
see what was going on.
And in soil samples or in soil, that's for perk testing mostly. That's not for testing the soil or
So
is
that's
it?
why if,
Okay.
I mean, you can ask the applicant's engineer to see if any of the soil testing for the basements went far enough down, or just, made them aware that they may have
Just
to
during
do
the building process, the city does do certain inspections, right?
we would not do that on private property. What the other gentleman spoke about was our city property that we inherited from Fulton County. So that's a little bit different, that we were, actually Fulton County was responsible for doing the cleanup. And so this is private property. So
We did survey on that property. No hazardous condition was found. Everything was clear on this property. This is the first time I'm hearing there was something in there. There was nothing found on this property.
Okay.
And how deep did you go in your soil?
We
samples?
did, they drilled very deep into the soil to give us, if we dig enough 20 feet, it's still good. So that's why every single lot can have a basement of 10 foot deep. We did a whole survey. I spent over $100,000 doing survey on this property. There's nothing, absolutely no hazard on this lot that will kill any of the people here. I'm telling you, it's a phenomenal lot. I think I got lucky to find it, and we did a lot of survey. I spent over $100,000 in survey. Especially, I wanted to know, are these homes gonna be on a slab, or can we have basement on every single lot? And based on the survey that I did, we can have 10-foot basement on every single lot. So this is the first time I'm hearing that we have, it was a dump site. There was nothing found on that lot that would stop us from doing the 7 homes because of hazardous condition. There was nothing at all found on the survey that we did. Guarantee you that.
Robin, I know we have like hydrology engineers and others, and arborists. We don't have an ecological environmental consultant or anything that we use to review.
I mean, we would not do that for private property. Obviously, when the city goes to purchase property for our own use, we do environmental analysis, and but we're not responsible for private property to do that. And no, we don't have anybody in-house that would have the expertise to do that.
Right.
And we do no inspections during the building process.
Well,
Nope.
I mean, I guess we can ask the applicant, and we can talk to Barry, the engineer, to make sure that, I get it that they were doing soil borings to make sure that the soil was okay for the basement. So we can look into and discuss with the applicant if there's any other avenue to do more due diligence to make sure that there is no hazardous materials that have been buried. So.
Yeah, I guess
Well,
the
we
question-
can ask them to do that. Again, there had, like, even on Homestead that used to be the golf course, they ended up finding, okay, it wasn't necessarily hazardous, but, I don't know, Jerry, how many feet of debris?
200 truckloads of unsuitable material.
Yeah. So again, I mean, it's up to the applicant, to the property owner to deal with
Locate it.
the issue. So.
My experience in building in Milton was we found one of the structures had asbestos. And I was required to test the structure because of the age. And then I was required to remediate the asbestos. But I know from perk tests, from soil samples, that's more about seeing how water perks in the ground for septic. They're pulling the dirt out. They're seeing how fast water goes. They're not testing soil. I would recommend to the city that we evaluate whether or not there's legitimacy to it being a dump to see if there's any record of that.
Well,
And if it, I don't know.
Again, this gets to a question of who's responsible for dealing with the property. That if there's no code or ordinance to apply to it,
Yeah.
then there's no responsibility for the city. There's nothing the city can do to require anything to be done. Now, if it impacts the building and it would cause a issue with a foundation study will be performed, and all of the stages of development will. But if that's not one of the inspections that's required, then it won't be something that the city is going to do.
There would be a formal soils report, a boring report as well.
Not necessarily. We are only responsible, Jerry Oberholzer, I'm a site development engineer. As it goes, these plans come in for a land development permit. And once that permit's issued, then we start our inspection process. Our initial inspection is when we put the initial erosion controls go in there. But we do supervise when they excavate the roads or houses and stuff. Now, land development, it's roads, it's infrastructure, pond. If we were to find an issue, we would stop all construction and the applicant would be responsible for that. We don't, as a city, take on that liability to go that because this is private property. And we are just here to look at what they're asking for. It's a private development. We won't be owning the streets or the infrastructure. On each house, there also is, when a house permit comes in there, we'll usually do an erosion control or initial inspection of make sure all the B&Ps are, but there is a foundation inspection. They have to call in a foundation inspection where they got and probe the subsoil and look at that, and that's approved before anything's put in there. Underground plumbing's get it. So there's a lot of inspections. And like I said before, we have a lot of private inspectors called Citizens of Milton who call us on a lot of things. So we're very proactive on that. So that's how we handle it.
What is your confidence level in finding something like that during
We
each of the
usually find it.
builds?
If there's going to be something like that, I'm telling you, because these things are usually in areas where they're putting the roads in or building the houses.
Right.
So if we're going to find it, if we won't find it, they will find it, then we'll be called into and then we'll stop work and they'll have to remediate that. So, and my experience on the private side, and I'm not asking if they're engineer, but usually they're required to do level of environmental studies. The banks, the lending institutions, before anything is, they require a level 1 or level 2. And then my experience with Superfund sites is whoever owns it, wherever the chain of command is, always be the deepest pockets. That's why the city got caught on that one, because we have unlimited resources according to the federal government, because we have the ability to tax. So that's when you find something like that on a public property or the DOT or for building a road. So I just wanted to clarify what our responsibilities are.
So I know in the case of my home, during the demolition permitting, I was required to provide sampling. Is there a check like that that would find any kind of soil contamination?
If
during
there
the-
was a structure that was being developed, there'd be a special demo where we require the asbestos letter, a rodent letter
Right.
and other things that go with that, but that's mainly just buildings and stuff. We don't do any inspections for that now because we don't do it. We count on the private engineer, who's the engineer of record, who's submitting the plans, that they're supposed to do that as part of their due diligence. So we basically take what's provided to us and then we do the inspections to implement the plans so they're built to our standards. Even though they're private streets, we still require them to be built to public standards. And we just recently increased the thickness of pavement because of our problems. So they're still taxpayers of Milton. So,
Jerry, I have one
Yes,
more
sir.
question too. One of the comments earlier mentioned a well on the site. That well should be located formerly closed.
yes, there is, the state controls that, Fulton County, well, the health department, and there is state regulations about closing wells. If we find one on there, we'll notify them, but usually, again, it's private property unless there's an issue from a safety issue that we're called into.
Okay.
But there is the liability, and those wells do have to be performed by a certain state standard.
And that has a radius around it as well.
Yeah, yes, so, but, sorry to interrupt, but I did want to.
That's great.
Oh,
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions or comments?
I think real quickly on the comment about the setbacks. Did you hear that legally, everything is done to code. So there's no change, that they're not asking for something that's not currently legal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that this commenter wasn't here when we explained.
Right.
Right, so let me explain. So everything is done based on the geometry and the shape of the lot. So when you're on a corner lot, the shortest distance is on Thompson. And then that's the front. And then what we call a side corner, which is the Muscari Lane, is the longest. So it's all done by facts. So the shortest is Thompson, and that's the front. The Muscari Lane is 40. Then the back, the rear is the most parallel from the front. So that's the property line on the right side. And then the line adjacent to you is 25. That's the way it is determined. It has.
Their survey people, y'all didn't have anything.
No, we review it, ma'am. So we review what they submit, and many times they get it wrong and we have to do it correctly, which this is the correct way. So we've reviewed the set of plans and they are to the zoning ordinance, which was, we adopted the AG1 standards like Fulton County, 60 front, 50 rear, 25 side, 40 along the longer side corner.
So can we, are not we allowed to ask for a?
So,
I feel like I'm being punished as a property owner of 15 years.
so if you want to
They're
speak.
enriching their pockets are
You know, when you-
So,
Some
okay.
of the statements in Fulton County.
Wait.
Yeah,
Wait, wait,
we're
wait,
going to
you
need
can't-
to
I mean,
Yeah,
you
take
can't
this-
come in on- So, I mean, I'll try to answer it. So basically, this is a preliminary plat process. This subdivision is by right. And unless the applicant is willing to commit to something more, she can't change the setback lines because it would be against our ordinance. So we can't require her to make it larger. I mean, because this is not a zoning, this is a plat by right. And so unless she chooses when she develops that lot to say, I want to keep some extra trees, she's not required to by the zoning ordinance. So, okay.
So we're a lot with.
Okay.
Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah.
So I'm going to close comments and kind of put it to discussion of committee. I've heard a couple of comments for review. One is the output from the detention pond traversing private property. The other was perhaps relocating the mail kiosk so it wouldn't be in the front view. Is there any other?
Would like consideration for retaining as many specimen trees as possible around the north and south perimeter that's adjacent to the neighborhoods on the north and south of the property.
Anything else?
The existing water well that was identified should be located and shown on the plans.
And as it relates to that mail kiosk, I guess one option could be to put it towards the rear of the property, but the other could be to put it on the opposite side of where it is.
Exactly, just
On
get
the
out of
island.
the, out of
Okay,
sight
got
from the
it.
street. Yeah, that was the whole.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we recommend the following changes to the plat to the Community Development Director. One, to try to preserve as many trees as possible on the north and south property lines, that the previous well be located and shown on the plat and properly remediated, that the output from the detention area be reviewed and, if necessary, relocated to not cross other property lines, and to consider relocating the kiosk so it's not the front view from the rural view shed.
I'll second that.
Great. It's been moved and seconded to make those recommendations. Any further discussion? Nope. Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes 6-0. Thank you.
Okay.
We'll take a few seconds to let people. I'm good.
You're good, you're.
I'm good.
I'm good.
Water?
I'm good, thank you.
You drink water.
Okay, folks, if you need to, we need to move on to the next item. If you're not going to stay, if you could exit your conversation into the lobby, please.
Everyone in the public, there's more on the agenda.
There's more on the agenda.
Get them away from the door too.
Why doesn't she just go talk to the builder?
Pardon? You know, it's even further away.
All right.
All right, next item. That door closed.
Actually, Robin's going to present, so we're going to wait until she gets back. I'll go.
Well, I can.
Do you even have a microphone? I can't, is it?
I have a
okay.
microphone.
I'm not hearing you at all.
Testing.
Yeah, I heard that, but not
Can you hear me now? Usually mine's
How about now?
cut off.
It has just taken my frequency and said no. I think it was a little bit of back. Somebody out there is speaking at the same frequency. That's why you can hear it. So next on the agenda is a consideration of rezoning and use permit applications, RZ 24-02, U 2401, VC 24-01, 3499, and 3501 Bethany Band. The applicant is Sapient Minds LLC, doing business as Milton Montessori. Miss Robin.
Okay, good evening again. Tonight we have before you a multiple request of a rezoning use permit and a 3-part concurrent variance to rezone from TR Townhouse Residential that currently has a senior living use permit to ONI Office Institutional and a use permit to develop a private school of 24,000 square feet with a total of 160 students and associated activity outside areas and a 3-part concurrent variance. Those variances are: 1, to delete the 20-foot side setback along the south property line of 3501 Bethany Bend; 2, to delete the 10-foot landscape strip along that same south property line. 3, to reduce the sidewalk width along Bethany Bend within the city right-of-way from 6 to 5 feet. And in general, as stated in, Madam Chair had stated, this is applicant of Sapient Minds doing business as Milton Montessori, and Mr. Bijou Epen is the applicant. It's just over 5 acres within 2 parcels on Bethany Bend. It is located within the Highway 9 overlay district. We have very few, yeah.
1 second, I think Commissioner
I was
Shaw
gonna-
was
I
going to
think-
make a statement.
Oh, I'm sorry. yes.
Mr. Fricky said that I could wait until you made your presentation,
Okay.
then I could
Okay.
Thank you.
go ahead and
Recuse,
recuse, yeah.
Okay. So again, this is on the, within the Highway 9 overlay district. We don't have very many parcels left over, but on this eastern side of Bethany Bend, we do. And the existing use is, it's very hard to say a single-family residence because it's pretty torn. It's almost down. So anyway, nobody lives there. This is the location map. As I stated, it has 2 parcels. Here's the northern parcel, the southern parcel. You all just a few months ago heard a rezoning for R5A for the single-family houses just to the north of that. So just to give you some reference, this is the existing school to the south that that Mr. Epen has and is applying for the expansion. Again, the current zoning is TR, Townhouse Residential. It was approved back in 2008 for senior living. That's a use permit that allows higher density so long as there is sanitary sewer available. It had been approved at almost 20 units per acre, and it was basically a 3-story apartment building for 55 and over. And because of that, the subsequent future land use maps designated this as multifamily residential. So that's why it's kind of an odd future land use, because that was what the zoning was. We wanted to state that this request is within the urban growth boundary map. This is the site plan, and we'll get into more discussions on it. It's a little difficult to read. Here's a little blow up of it. Here you can see that we have a lot of floodplain on the left side, and really they have very little land except along Bethany Bend. So it was all designed in a linear fashion, paralleling to Bethany Bend. This is the building. They plan to build one section of it, one half in the beginning, and then expand. So they just want to come before you once. They don't want to come back again. So we asked them to be able to request what ultimately they want to do. I wanted to show, just as context, this is what the school looks like to the south. And then we'll get into some more detail at the variances, but these are the location of the 2 variances for the building setback. Here's the proposed area of the rezoning, as well as the landscape strip. So go from there. Here's some preliminary project renderings. Obviously, they're still working on that. This building would have to have final approval from the design review board before a building permit would be issued. But we like to ask our applicants to just give us some idea which direction they're going. I would also say that it coordinates with their other building as well, kind of in the same nature, character. This is some site photos looking from Bethany Bend to the north. And this is the wonderful house on the site. And then the common property line to the existing school on the left, and the proposed rezoning on the right, kind of right to that electrical pole. This is the existing uses map. As you can see, we have, as you remember from our previous zoning, there is townhomes that surround further to the north. This is the site number 2 that was just recently approved. And then this is the subject site. And then to the south is the existing school, and to the left is another townhouse slash single-family development to the west. So we'll just go through this. Across the street is Forsyth County, Deerfield Township. It's been under development for quite a while, but it is a mixed-use development eventually. This is the rezoning that was just previously approved. And this is Spring Valley and Windcrest Park. And the the school to the south. And this is Hidden Forest, which is both attached product as well as there is some detached adjacent to the subject site. And Fairview and some apartments to the south. Public involvement is community zoning information. Meeting was held on June 26th here at City Hall. The applicant and his engineer were here, and there were no members of the public in attendance. At the Design Review Board on July 9th, they recommend the applicant create a site plan which shows both properties, including the current Milton Montessori School. Secondly, recommended Part 3 of the concurrent variances be denied in favor of the Public Works requested 10-foot multi-use path. Since the DRB meeting, the Public Works Department has changed the requirement to have the applicant prepare the site for the new path, not to install the path themselves, but the city will have it on a near future project. And we have the transportation engineer here from Public Works if you have any questions about any of this stuff. So, and again, no members of the public gave comment during the DRB meeting. The public participation report, the applicant held his meeting on July 16th at the school, and there were no members of the public that came and participated at that meeting. So, okay, we're going to get into the meat of it here. So we're going to just step through first the rezoning section. So it's proposed to office institutional O&I. I'm not going to go through every single one of these, but these are on the left, the development standards for O&I. And then on the right is whether the development meets those regulations or not. So they do except for principal building setbacks, minimum side yard, that's the middle one. And then on the right, they're proposing to delete it, and that'll be part 1 of the concurrent variance. So, and I just want to also explain why are you doing O&I? This is not an office, but in our traditional zoning districts, having a school is a appropriate use. So we needed to rezone it to be consistent also with the adjacent property, but to be able to allow this school with a use permit. So that is the typical zoning district, traditional zoning district that you have a private school on. This is the development standards for the private school. Again, I'm not going to go through every single one of them, but according to this, they have met all of the requirements for the private school. In regards to the State Route 9 overlay district, non-residential development are required to meet the district standards, and the site plan indicates compliance with these standards with the exception of parts 2 and 3 of the concurrent variances discussed below. These standards are the 10-foot landscape strip adjacent to the south property line and the 6-foot requirement for the sidewalk along Bethany Bend. So as you remember, he originally requested 5 feet. And then since then, transportation has said that in lieu of either the 5 or 6 feet, they would accept the grading of the path, and that'll be included in the recommended conditions. City staff comments, the city arborist stated that before the issuance of the LDP, the site will need to demonstrate how the proposed plan meets the tree ordinance. The development engineer, the preliminary hydrology study has provided sufficient information to verify the proposed improvement can be developed. Further stormwater will be reviewed when the LDP is applied for. at that time. The fire marshal had no comments. Fire codes, local ordinances, and ADA standards will be applied after final approval of this application and upon submittal of the official LDP and plat. Public Works Department, they stated a detailed signing and striping plan for all 3 access points is required at LDP and will be reviewed by that department. Design for proposed access at the existing Bethany Strickland roundabout shall follow GDOT roundabout design guidance. Work in Forsyth County shall be reviewed by Forsyth County, coordinated by Milton staff. The traffic analysis was completed. There was a traffic study done by the applicant or by his professional engineer, assuming a max number of students of 300. So this includes both the existing schools to the south as well as the proposed 160 that is being proposed, as I said. This will be the capacity of the school, both current and future, if this request is approved. Development shall construct a 12-foot graded and grass shoulder along Bethany Bend along entire frontage north of the existing driveway to accommodate future operational and safety improvements for pedestrians along Bethany Bend, constructed by a future city T-Splosh project. We do get comments. Those rare occurrences, we have non-residential rezonings. So we get to talk to my friend Abdul at Fulton County, and he stated that the anticipated water demand is 100 gallons per day, divided by 1,000 square feet with a total of 1,200 gallons per day. It is within the Fulton County Government Water Service jurisdiction, and there is a 24-inch water line to the west side of Bethany Bend that can serve this development. In regards to the wonderful sewer, it is in the Big Creek Basin. It's the Big Creek Treatment Plant. This is exciting to me, guys, because I never get to talk about sewer in a good way, okay? This is like, I'm sorry.
It's not a bad word.
No, it's not a bad word. So the anticipated sewer demand is 1,080 gallons per day. And there are 2 sanitary sewer manholes on adjacent properties that can service this location. The developer will be responsible for running the sewer line from existing Fulton County maintained sewer manholes to this location, as well as obtaining any needed sewer easements. With the ESA, the report is sufficient and satisfies the requirement of the UDC. The proposed site does contain a stream and associated floodplains, which will not be impacted by the development due to the buffers. The site does not contain wetlands, steep slopes, historical sites, or sensitive plant and animal species. Standards of review in regards to the zoning, it is staff's opinion that the proposed use is suitable with adjacent and nearby development and zonings if approved with staff's recommended conditions. It is staff's opinion that the proposal will not adversely affect the existing use or usability of the adjacent properties. The proposed development is compatible with the adjacent use to the south and is similar to other uses in the area. The subject site may have a reasonable use, currently zoned TR for senior living. Staff does not anticipate a significant impact on public services or utilities. The proposed development may have some impact on existing streets, transportation facilities, and schools. In regards to the future land use plan, as I stated earlier, it's multifamily residential, 12 units per acre. The proposed use is office institutional with a private school. We state the proposed development is a less intensive use than previously approved. Senior living, this use is an extension of the existing school to the south and provides the appropriate transition to residential uses to the north. The future land use map shows O&I on the parcel immediately to the south of the subject site. The school will also provide valuable community services. It is staff's opinion that these change conditions affect the use and development of the property, which supports the recommended approval of the proposed rezoning. There's new single-family development to the north, mixed-use development under construction in Forsyth to the east, roundabout to the south to allow traffic flow, and new interchange of Georgia 400 at McGinnis Ferry. The proposed use, lastly, will not be environmentally adverse to the natural resources, environment, and citizens of the city due to the required development regulations as it pertains to stormwater facilities and tree recompense and landscape requirements. In regards, we also have standards of review for the use permit. So I apologize, this is a little lengthy, but we have a lot of meat tonight. So please bear with us. One, the proposed development is located in the multifamily residential land use category of the 2040 plan. Again, as I stated earlier, although the proposed zoning and use is less intensive than the previously approved senior living use permit, this use is an extension of the existing school to the south and provides an appropriate transition to the residential uses to the north. It is staff's opinion that the proposed use is suitable with adjacent and nearby developments that we've already reviewed. 3, the proposed use does not appear to violate any ordinances or regulations governing land development if the concurrent variances are approved. 4, the proposed use effect on the traffic flow, vehicular, pedestrian along adjoining streets should be mitigated with the location of the entrances and per the submitted traffic study. The off-street parking is located on the side of the proposed buildings, which is the appropriate location as required by the State Route 9 Overlay District. You can see in the table indicating on the right the required and provided number of parking spaces. Basically, total required is 28 and total provided is 31. So existing school to the south has a total of 28 parking spaces. So I just want to, for the subject site, they provide 31. There's also another 28 to the south. The large amount of floodplain and the required setback for a private school provide a large amount of open space as well as provide adjacent residential uses protection from the school use. 7, there's a large amount of protective screening to the west adjacent to the Hidden Forest subdivision. A perennial stream is located along the western property line, which requires a 50-foot undisturbed buffer and 25-foot non-improvement setback. Hours of operation are Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. It's staff's opinion that the above mentioned hours and days of operation are reasonable and will be included in the recommended conditions. The applicant has not indicated any additional lighting on the site. If lighting is proposed, it must comply with the Highway 9 Overlay District of the UDC. The site plan indicates a one-way in and one-way out from the roundabout through the current Montessori school lot and out the existing exit for ingress and egress to the property. This allows the student drop-off and vehicular stacking to be provided so that flow of traffic remains forward in motion, which is required. In regards to the variance requests, variance must be based upon the credible evidence submitted in compliance with the items 1 through 4. I won't bore you. I will not bore you with reading them out aloud. We'll discuss them with each request. Part 1 is to delete the 20-foot side setback along the south property line for 3501 Bethany Bend. So as you can see, this is the red. So here we have a red line along the south property line. So that's where the request is being made to delete the side setback to the adjoining property. And staff recommends approval of that part 1. In part 2, to delete the 10-foot landscape strip along that same property line. Again, this is the dark blue just below it. So that's concurrent with the setback. So there won't, because they own the land to the south and it's the same use. And staff recommends approval of part 2. Part 3, to reduce the sidewalk width along Bethany Bend, as you see in this orange yellow here, from 6 feet to 5 feet. Staff recommends denial of part 3. The proposed private school, if developed with the recommended conditions, is an extension of the neighboring zoning and provides an appropriate transition between the school and the high-density residential surrounding the area, while providing valuable community facilities and economic stimulus. Therefore, staff recommends approval conditional of RZ 2402, U 2401, and VC 2401, parts 1 and 2, and denial of part 3, and to rezone from TR townhouse residential with the revocation of this senior living use permit to O&I with a private school. Basically, we're revoking the existing TR and the private school, or asking to revoke that. Correct, Mr. Attorney?
To revoke the existing and then to approve the new.
That's, yeah. Okay, in regards to recommended conditions, if it's approved, staff recommends it be O&I with a use permit for a private school, to the owner's agreement to restrict the use of the subject property to the use to a private school and associated accessory structures and uses, restricted number of students to 160. Basically to abide by the following: compliance with the revised site plan submitted on June 28th to our department. 3, to the owner's agreement to the following development considerations: to delete the 20-foot side setback along the south property line, part 1, and to delete the 10-foot landscape strip along the south property line, part 2. To the owner's agreement to abide by the following improvements: in lieu of sidewalk, developer shall construct a 12-foot graded and grass shoulder along Bethany Bend along entire frontage north of the existing driveway to accommodate future operational and safety improvements for pedestrians along Bethany Bend, constructed by a future city T-Splosh project. I would like to have you add the hours of operations, if that is not in the use permit. Is the use permit 7:30 to 7:30?
I don't believe so. So that's
Yeah.
something we'll should.
So we'll want to add that to, it would be 1C. The hours of operation. Yeah. So with that, I am happy to answer any of your questions, as well as we have the city arborist and we have the city engineer, not city engineer, we have the transportation engineer and the land development engineer. All waiting with bated breath to answer your questions.
Okay, well, at this moment, Madam Chair, I have a potential conflict of interest, so I just need to go ahead and recuse myself from this agenda item.
Thanks.
Can I ask one clarification from what's up there right now? When it says restrict the number of students to 160, does that include the parcel to the south?
No, because it's a separate
Okay.
zoning. So, yeah. But in the traffic study, they use the total number
That's
of
fine.
students.
I guess that was a question I had too, because the current is 150 students, right?
Or 160, yeah.
Well, the current.
Oh, I'm
use-
sorry.
Current use is 150, and this is for 160 more, but everything's based on 300. They agree to reduce that to 300. That's what I read in here. You know, it says,
Need to look at
And they
the
did the-
approval, approved for the original zoning.
right, and it says here on page 15 of 33, second paragraph from the bottom, it says that it was increased to 150.
Right.
And then the last paragraph says that this is another 160.
So that's 310.
Right, but then it says the traffic study was done on 300 and they'd agreed to 300 if we went ahead with this. So I'm trying to get a number on this. It says here on page 19, traffic analysis was completed assuming a max number of students of 300. This will be the capacity of the school for all properties, both current and future, if this request is approved. Does that?
How many students do you have? So we need to look at the conditions of zoning. Last.
It says 150
It says 150.
for the last one.
Yeah. So that was our mistake in the staff report. So the approved conditions for his current school, existing school is 150 and 160 is 310.
Right,
Yes.
but then again, they say if we agree with this.
I know, yeah.
We need to fix.
Mr. Traffic Engineer.
Yeah, but then, excuse me, just what?
Good evening, Rob Delross, Milton Public Works. I'd like to defer and clarify this with, I hope the traffic engineers in the room for the development. My understanding and look at the analysis was that there was an assumption of 300 students total, and that's why that language is in my comment.
Okay, because on 19, it says that they'll agree to 300 students if we go ahead with this. So are they backing off 10 students? That's where I'm a little concerned.
I would like to defer that to the applicant. My understanding in looking at the traffic study was that they assumed in their numbers with parents coming into the roundabout driveway and dropping off their students, that there would be a maximum of 300 basically cars entering the property.
Well, I also had a question on the entrance and exit right off of the traffic or the roundabout itself.
Yes.
I mean, I know how entertaining it is with the roundabout up here with watching people trying to navigate that. Is that not going to cause problems on that roundabout with people backing up?
We're actually happy that they're proposing it off the roundabout versus another separate driveway because the roundabout already exists. There is room to bring in another approach to that and not compromise any of the other approaches. And we are very happy that they're using actually the roundabout as their main entrance and converting the existing driveway into an exit only approach. If you've been by the property in the mornings, you'll see parents or staff members trying to convince drivers to not make that left in because it can have detrimental impacts to the network and other drivers.
Makes sense.
So can I ask you a question? So that basically, whether it's 300 or 310, it's not going to impact the requirements of the development requirements. I mean, it's off a roundabout and.
That's correct. My primary focus in looking at, let me come back to the site. We can look at it from here. When I review this site, I primarily focus on two things. One, does their traffic study require any improvements to Bethany Bend? With respect to right turn lanes, left turn lanes, the answer to that is no. And if the analysis were done with 310 instead of 300, the answer would still be no. We are very happy, again, with the primary access point at the roundabout. The other point of my review was the sidewalk question. So I know that question is probably going to come up at some point. I want to go ahead and explain our thought process there. Let me find a good picture of, sure, that we'll go with this. You can see my cursor. Existing school where my cursor is, to the south is Morris Road. Morris Road going further east turns into McGinnis Ferry Road, which you know is currently under construction. Georgia DOT is building a brand new interchange with 400 at that location. Widening McGinnis Ferry Road to 4 lanes, 2 lanes in each direction. City has an existing capital project that will be starting construction at the end of this year and under construction all of next year to continue those 4 lanes further west down to the roundabout at Webb Road. As part of that project, we are constructing 10-foot wide sidewalks, trails along Morris Road. And we are building a 10-foot trail from Morris Road to Mr. Eben's existing driveway. That's why the initial comment, our thought process was extend that 10-foot trail along his entire frontage. Given conversations with the applicant, that I would recognize as a significant financial hardship given the length of his property, going north from the existing driveway on his current parcel and then along that red line. We do have plans to look at Bethany over the next couple of years through T-Splost. I don't know what those improvements would look like, but given this application, given the uncertainty of what the public will want to see on Bethany related to sidewalks or wider sidewalks, we thought it was reasonable to ask him to grade a shoulder for future construction for the city to make sure that he's not precluding a city improvement of some kind in the next several years when that happens and goes through the public process and is vetted by everyone. Questions for me before I.
In the schematic that we have, there is also showing, though it's dotted and dashed, another entrance off of Bethany Bend. Is that for emergency use up by the activity courts?
You're referring to the access point right here?
Yeah, right there.
I'm not sure what the question is, but yes, that's his third proposed access point.
Okay, so he'll effectively have, that will also be, is that just an in or is it an in and an out?
I'd refer to the applicant that it looks like to me to be a two-way enter and exit. I'm understanding that that will probably not carry anywhere near the volume that it will be with his main entrance being at the roundabout with vehicles using that as the entrance, then heading south to the new buildings and the existing school, and then exiting out the existing driveway.
Yeah, and knowing how schools end up having very long drop-off and pickup lines, especially more pickup lines, is it your sense that the length of this new linear parking lot, I'll call it, will help facilitate a long pickup line?
I should have clarified that in my earlier comments. Yes, we are very concerned. We always look at queue length when schools are built or improved or upgraded to make sure that, yes, there is enough stacking capacity on their property so that those queues aren't extending out onto Bethany or even worse onto Morris. Yes, based on the capacity of the school, we are not concerned about that length at all.
Rob, I have a question for you. Actually, a statement and a question, or a concern and a question. With their entrance coming into the current traffic circle, based on my experience with the one at Bethany Creek, what I see is that when you're coming from a neighborhood into a road that's got 40-mile-an-hour speed limit, it's sometimes, well, it's not difficult, but it's sometimes dangerous to go from, a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit into a 40 because they come zooming through there. The through traffic comes through even the traffic circle at like 40 miles an hour.
Mhm.
And so you can sometimes be in the traffic circle coming from the neighborhood and not have anybody at the yield sign. And before you can get into the circle, really, you've got somebody coming through there.
Mhm.
So that's just a concern I would have for that situation where you'd have an entrance to a school right on a traffic circle with a 40-mile-an-hour speed limit. The other question I had was, and I didn't dig into it in detail, but did the traffic impact study looks like it focuses on existing traffic patterns, and then I think there's like a 2% growth or something like that they add in there. But when they complete the connection to 400, there's going to be a significant amount of traffic on Bethany Bend, isn't there? And that wasn't taken into consideration?
Expecting this applicant to deal with that traffic impact is very difficult. Yes, I completely agree with you that the volumes on McGinnis Ferry and Morris and Bethany will increase when those ramps connect to 400.
Yeah.
And yes, I would say the volume that they're projecting in 2 years when the school is opened is probably lower than what it will be once the interchange is online and functioning.
Right.
But that increase won't change the requirements that the city is asking this property to do.
Okay. Okay. I didn't know if it would have any impact on what they would want to do, knowing that they'll be dealing with an increased traffic situation. Not a requirement necessarily, but just maybe a design consideration. I don't know what they could do, but.
I'd like to confirm something with the applicant as to whether they have any objections or concerns with providing the grading as opposed to a sidewalk.
I think we're still
Are we still-
open to letting them have their.
Oh, okay.
Well, yeah, do you want to just go ahead and have the applicant make their presentation?
Yeah, that's fine.
Are they the only speaker we have?
Yeah, this is the only one.
Okay.
Everybody came for the first one.
Yes, you have,
They've earned it.
as stated previously, you have 10 minutes for
Good
presentation.
evening. My name is Biju Epen. I'm the owner of Milton Montessori School, 3505 Bethany Bend, Milton, Georgia, 30004. Let me give you a brief description where, what's my history and a little bit of what I'm going to do, just real fast. I started this business in 2008. with my own 2 kids, because I was looking for right space, for Montessori school, but I wasn't able to find it. So they were my first 2 kids, and my wife was the director there. And at the same time, I had the passion to do business, so that's how I started this. And pretty soon I found out, it's people are hungry to find right kind of preschool. And Montessori was very unique. It is unique. And if you ever experience, you will know it's not like a traditional school or private school. It's a different approach how we work. And as I'm growing from first building to second building, now I'm still filled, because parents are asking, okay, after kindergarten, what we're going to do? We want to continue here. So that's why I'm just buying this property and, starting elementary and middle school. And it's really word of mouth. That's all I'm doing. My staff, all Montessori certified staff, and I have about 25 staff. It's amazing how 16 years, I love what I do, and I'm there almost every day. I have my director there every day. It's very passionate. I just love it how things when parents come and tell us what they get, from here, it's amazing. So that's what I want to continue, and that's hopefully everything will work out and we'll start it. And it's good for city. I always care about community. It's really end of the day, I just want to do the right thing, and 16 years I've been doing, and I'm willing to do much longer. So that's what I'm requesting. That's what it is. So like you talked about the numbers and everything, just want a real quick comment on that. Around 10 to 15% are siblings. It's always like that. Last 16 years, that's how it's always. Even if it's 300 cars, you're approved, it may be 260, whatever cars coming. It's always going to be like that. And in Montessori, classrooms can never be 100% full. The reason is Montessori kids can go graduate any time of the year. They're ready to go, they go to next level. So we have to have that room there always. So again, it may not be 260, I don't know where it's going to be, but it's always, I don't think it's going to be more than 300 cars at a given day. And all at different times. And especially existing building, it starts different times. All kids come different, not everybody's coming same time. Some goes lunchtime, 12 o'clock. Some goes 3 o'clock, some 3:15, some 3:30. It's all different times. It's not like all cars are coming same time. So that will really, my staffs are very good. I'm very particular about that. No cars should be on the main road, so they really manage it pretty good. Every now and then, when everybody has to go toll, we ask for police to help us, so we do that too. Actually, this year we are starting for every day we will have police every day. So we are doing whatever I like to, because I don't want any accident happening there. So that's I want to make sure that's clear. So as far as sidewalk, yes, I did talk to city, and 10 feet, 12 feet wide. Yes, we'll grade it, no problem. We'll just do that. Yes.
Is there anyone else you'd like to present?
Yeah, we could be here a while with this rain. Maybe we should start the presentation over again.
Any questions for staff or the applicant?
I have more of a comment for staff, and it's more semantics, but it's on page 19 where it talks about this being part of the urban growth boundary. And having been part of that urban growth boundary, the last sentence, this site also falls within the urban growth boundary, meaning the extension of sewers permitted to this property. The urban growth boundary and the sewers were kind of separate. The urban growth boundary followed those, but this is kind of saying it's automatic. Just, again, very, very fine line, just little semantics that concerns me, because it's saying, oh yeah, if it's urban growth boundary, you get that. No, that's not the requirement for sewer.
That's a good point. We'll make that distinction.
They're coincident, not causal.
Yeah, that makes sense. We'll make that
I
distinction.
do have a question. I don't know if it's for staff or for the applicant. Because this is the Highway 9 overlay, which we don't see very often, and we are dealing with a floodplain at the back of the property. This property is very front-loaded. And help me with the requirements that caused it to be so front-loaded?
What caused it is exactly, there are a few things. Obviously, the floodplain, but in a private school, any activity areas have to be 100 feet from any adjacent residential district. So that's why there's that big, huge strip on the west and the north. It's part of the use permit regulations.
And then can you expound on the, uniquely because it's dashed rather than solid, what does that indicate on that road, narrower road and parking up near the activity courts?
Yeah.
Why is that dashed? Why is that, what's unique about it? Isn't always legend. No, it's like all of this is dashed rather than solid, and I didn't know if it was trying to indicate that it was a different surface. I couldn't decipher that from the legend.
Printer was running out of ink.
Pardon?
Printer was running out of ink, I think.
They just need to fix their, yeah, it's the same. It's the same.
It is a narrower road though, because it is not intended, and so is that road mostly intended to be overflow parking as well as parking for the activity courts? What's the idea behind that whole area?
Can be used for either way, because again, I just felt like one more exit, having exit is a good thing. And somebody let's say competition or something happens between the schools, something, they can come from their part there and play and go, sort of taking the main exit.
Okay. But the intent would be, I would hope the intent would be is you don't want people leaving there and trying to take a left on Bethany Bend.
I want them to use the cul-de-sac,
Yeah,
the circle.
use the circle, okay. And those are just like multi-purpose activity courts. They could be basketball, volleyball,
Well,
pickleball.
right now it's tennis court, that's all
tennis.
building it
Oh,
is.
okay. Great, thank you. Anybody else have any questions I know I had a question for Robin. Robin, in the Highway 9 overlay, is there any requirement for, I'm not a big fan of looking at a bunch of parked cars. Is there any requirement for putting some kind of low shrubbery so you don't see the cars?
There's a 20-foot landscape strip. And so, it's not like, there's not a line along it, which that's a little snafu there, but there is a 20-foot landscape strip adjacent to the property line. So that will have the needed shrubbery, and we would also like to help screen the car lights and the car front. So that will be accomplished through that 20-foot landscape strip.
Cool.
Any other questions for staff?
Got any questions for the arborist? She stayed just for this. Just want to make sure.
Are there any specimen trees on this property? Oh, there are some, okay.
There is specimen trees.
Okay.
I'm good.
Good thing.
Everybody good? Okay. It's been a while since we did a rezoning with variances and conditions.
And use permit. So you
And
can
use
do
permit.
all one motion, approval, or whatever you decide of the rezoning, the use permit, and the 3-part concurrent variance, and any conditions. So
Can I make a note on the recommended conditions? I think you said recommended condition 3 is actually a list of the variances that are being sought.
Yes,
For the sidewalk?
on 3.
Yeah.
The condition 3 is actually a variance. Condition 3 is the same as concurrent variance part 1.
It'll be further back, yeah. So what I do, I'll separate it. You're talking about the conditions?
Yeah.
You wanna take a crack?
Concurrent variance part one is the-
Yeah, so, but
Setback.
you have to do the
Yeah.
rezoning.
3A and 3B are actually the variances, that they're not actually zoning conditions.
Okay, so they need to do that separately.
They just don't, if they're recommending approval of variances, we don't need those conditions because
I fix it at council.
Okay.
We approve so Paul, for clarification, if we recommend something on the variances, we don't need the conditions 3A and B.
those aren't actually conditions because conditions would be harsher than, and these are actually less harsh than the actual requirements.
Cleaner if you don't have them
Yes.
overlook. Just to make it easier, I think it would be good to do them, we'll do the rezoning, vote on the rezoning, then vote on the use permit, then vote on the variances?
You don't need to.
Or you can.
If you're planning to do different things with, I mean, you could recommend approval of all of them with the exception of one of the variances or recommend just, I mean, you can do it all at once or separately, whichever.
That's what I would say.
I mean, it's entirely up to you.
Yeah,
With the
except they
exception of
made
number
some
3.
exceptions.
And the exception is the sidewalk is grading, correct? Instead of the sidewalk?
Well, that's the recommended condition, which is on here, but they also added 1C and then we're striking 3 because it's a variance.
I heard the striking 3 because it's a variance. I agree with that.
Okay.
I didn't hear
Just
the
to
rest
keep
of
it,
it.
You're right,
keep
Judy.
it simpler, I'm going to do it one at a time.
That's
Because then
fine.
I don't have to try to have this lengthy.
We're still waiting out the rain too, so.
Yes.
Yeah, one at a time.
Yeah, take them one at a time. So I'd like to make a motion to approve RZ 2402 to rezone the property at 3499 and 3501 Bethany Bend to OI. Is that sufficient if we can just do the rezoning and then I'll do the use permit and then we'll do all the rest?
Do you want the conditions with the rezoning?
Approval?
Is that a condition? And then, so we should attach the conditions to the rezoning? Okay, with the conditions proposed, 1, adding that the hours of operation will be 7, but that's a use, 7:30 to 7:30 PM is a use, not a, that ties to the use.
That makes sense.
But it can go under the,
Either way.
we don't have a separate section for just uses, whatever I said before.
Okay,
whatever
let me retract that motion. It seems like these things are so intertwined, we have to do them all in a bundle.
So you would put it, you would add it to, what was 3 with the, oh, no, I'm sorry, to 1C. It would be 1C.
Right. But it's a condition to both the rezoning and the uses. And tying in the variances. I'm just trying to make this clean.
Good luck.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion that we recommend approval of the rezoning 2402, the use permit 2401, and the variances, 1, to delete the 20-foot side setback along the south property line, And 2, to delete the 10-foot landscape strip along the south property line, but to deny a reduction of the sidewalk width along Bethany Bend to 5 feet with the conditions stated: 1, to restrict the use of the property to a private school and associated accessory structures and uses. And does that have to be K through 12?
The private school use permit is for K through 12.
K through 12, not to restrict the number of.
Well, I mean, you could, he's only going through 8th grade, what? Middle school, so 6th, 7th, and 8th.
Could be 9th.
So you could add 6th, 7th, and 8th grades.
Do we want to
Restrict
make it
Do
more
you want
restrictive?
it restricted, or do you want it?
No.
Don't restrict it.
Yeah.
Leave it open.
Yeah,
To restrict the number of students for this property to 160, to restrict the hours of operation from 7:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m., to the owner's agreement as stated in the recommended conditions for compliance with the site plan, to the owner's agreement to abide by the following requirements, dedication and improvements, that in lieu of a sidewalk, the developer shall construct a 12-foot graded and grass shoulder along Bethany Bend along the entire frontage north of the existing driveway to accommodate future operational and safety improvements for pedestrians along Bethany Bend constructed by a potential future city T-Splost project. How'd I do? Miss anything? Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay. It's been moved. Any
Could you
discussion?
say it again?
No.
Okay.
Who seconded? Kurt. Okay.
Kurt.
Seconded by Kurt. Any discussion?
He did the hard work of seconding.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That passes 5-0 with Commissioner Shaw recusing. Okay.
Great work, guys.
Yep.
Good job.
Best of luck in your expansion, so.
Yeah, for real.
Okay, where were we? We have more. Don't leave yet. Thank you.
Motion to get umbrellas for.
Motion to get umbrellas. Flipping over, there is no old business, new business. It looks like Miss Jackie is going to give us a overview of the impact fee program amendment.
Good evening, Planning Commissioners. I'm Jackie Jennings. I'm with Community Development Department. I'm also a planner. So tonight, the purpose of this presentation is to provide Planning Commission a general overview of the impact fee program, the process that involved in this project, as well as the components and timeline. So what is an impact fee program? So on April 4, 1990, the Georgia Development Impact Fee Act, or DIFA, was enacted into law. DIFA established a process by which local governments in Georgia may adopt ordinances under which development impact fees may only be imposed upon new development to pay for a proportionate share of the cost of system improvements needed to serve new growth and development. So the act defines system improvements as capital improvements that are public facilities and are designed to provide service to the community at large. So in 2016, the city of Milton adopted its first impact fee program. Because many of the impact fee eligible projects have already been accomplished in that old CIE, we are now updating the current impact fee program, and it's also a perfect time for us to evaluate and consider modifying our fee schedule. So in 2023, the city engaged with Ross Plus Associates, who is the consultant that assisting us for the preparation of this impact fee program amendment. So the scope of work includes a preparation of a new methodology report, which is the basis for the CIE and the impact fee ordinance. They will also help us prepare the capital improvements element, which we're amending, and the impact fee ordinance, which is chapter 25 of the city ordinance. And that includes the fee schedule. So this is just a diagram of the overall process and workflow. Started with the methodology report. As mentioned earlier, this is the basis for our capital improvements element and the ordinance. Everything that is needed to craft that CIE and the ordinance comes from the methodology report. And of course, the components involved in that one were to look at the forecast, the projects, and the maximum impact fees, which I'm gonna flesh out in the next slide. The capital improvements element, this one requires DCA review and approval and local adoption. And then lastly, the ordinance and the impact fee schedule, which requires 2 public hearings and local adoption. So just for details, the first one is the methodology report. We look at forecast that includes the population, housing, employment, to calculate the demand for services to 2045. And then we also look at projected needs for system improvements over the next 20 years, as well as the capital projects that will meet the anticipated need for system improvements. And lastly, the maximum impact fee that could be charged to help pay for the system improvements. So those are the 4 subcomponents that is included in this methodology report. Then second, after we did the methodology report, we craft the capital improvements element, or the CIE. Again, the forecast, projected needs, and capital projects are included with the exception of, not exception, but with the addition of the 5-year community work program. So if you notice in the comprehensive plan, one of the section there talks about the 5-year community work program. Don't confuse this with the short-term work program. That's different. This one is only specific to capital projects. And here's an example of that. So it's a list of impact fee eligible projects anticipated to be implemented in the near term. So that's within 5 years. So the image below is just an extracted part of that CWP. Pretty straightforward category. What are the projects, the years, the responsible party or departments, and the cost estimate, and the suggested or proposed funding source, and then of course some notes. And this is the one that we send out to DCA every year for the CIE annual update, just to give DCA an update to see, okay, what are the projects that are already in motion, you know. And then there's also some financial components that we provide to DCA. So eligible projects is limited to capital items having a life expectancy of at least 10 years. So these are lands, buildings, fire trucks, specialized vehicles for police, and road projects that increase capacity. So this includes the road widening, intersection improvements, and etc. So the purpose of the CIE, as mentioned earlier, it's a state requirement for collecting impact fees from new developments as a funding source to help pay for future public facilities. And the CIE documents identifies all the projects for parks, fire, police, and road improvements needed to serve future growth over the next 20 years. And the third component of that impact fee program is the ordinance and fee schedule. So it contains the regulations, the mechanisms, the regulations on the imposition of impact fees, the mechanism, or the provisions for administering an impact fee program. So that includes like the fee assessment, payments, credits, periodic review. And then lastly, part of that ordinance is the impact fee schedule. You know, it outlines the total impact fee associated with land use categories and amount to be allocated for each public facility category. So this is just the table of contents for that chapter 25 to show you all the provisions related to impact fee. And then that attachment is in reference to the impact fee schedule. So as you can see, it details all the land use, and then the total impact fee per unit and unit measure to the right side, and in between is how much Parks and Rec, fire, law, and road improvements get out of that total impact fee per unit. So say, for example, the single-family detached housing, the proposed impact fee now is $10,652. So out of that, how much is going to parks, which is, of course, a big portion. And I'm not surprised because one of the projects in parks is land. So the value of land is, very high, especially in this current time. And then you also have fire protection, law enforcement, and improvement. There's an administrative fee, which is 3%. This is the one that pays for consultants that help us prepare these projects and the annual update every year. And so the maximum that could be, the fee that could be charged, and I just want to show you a comparison between the current and the new maximum fee for a single family house. So in 2015 adopted fee, you have the $7,757.85, and that's a probably close to $3,000 increase, and that is the proposed 2024 maximum fee. And then for adoption, the city can choose to adopt at 100% of the maximum fee schedule. So that 10,000 right away, let's adopt it and, make it effective, and the council will have to decide the effective date for that. Or adopt a reduced impact fee schedule. So at a lower total fee by reducing fees for all land use in a particular facility category proportionally. And this reduction can apply to one or more public facility categories, parks, police, fire, and roads. So just for historical perspective, here's how fee was allocated, currently. About, as mentioned, parks get 80% of that impact fee, and then the rest, road has 9%, fire with 7%, the admin, which is 3%, and police for 1%. So as a builder comes in, he pays impact fee, and this is how it's broken down to that 5 different fund categories. And so we have a public hearing, number 1, dated July 22nd. The purpose of the public hearing is to receive public input on the draft development impact fee ordinance amendment. That is the text amendments in the new fee schedule. And there were no public comments received during that time. And I'm referring to the council meeting dated July 22nd. Mayor and council comments to adopt the maximum impact fee of $10,652.72, and then to set the effective date to January 1st, 2025. This will allow staff to work on our system to make sure, we incorporate the new fees on CityView, and then also allow the development community to sort of like prepare for this new change. And then the next public hearing is scheduled for August 5th, so that's coming up pretty shortly. So the requirement is we can do the second public hearing 2 weeks after that first one. And all of these are advertised in the paper. So just to kind of like summarize our public engagement or public meetings, we started with the impact fee briefing to council at their work session in March. And then we started with a CIE process. We have another work session just focusing on the CIE, the technicalities that involve in crafting this document. And we did a public hearing, and of course, council approved the transmittal of the CIE to the local or to the state agency for regional and state review. And then just early this month, council adopted the new CIE. And then the second process or path for this impact fee program is, of course, the ordinance and fee schedule. We started with another work session, just focusing on the impact fee and the technicalities of how fees are calculated. And then that was in May, and we did the public hearing this Monday. And then, of course, we're looking forward to do our council meeting or second public hearing on August 5th. So what happens if, let's say, August 5th, we have community members or development that say, you know, have some feedback about the new proposed fee? I mean, they can state that, so council could either wait and kind of weigh in all this and then come back for the actual adoption. But if we don't see any comments from the public, you know, opposition, then we're likely going to adopt it on August 5th. So that ends my presentation. Any questions for me?
Jackie, give me a sense of what the total amount collected on these fees was in the last fiscal year. Are we talking hundreds of thousands, a million?
Yeah, we're talking about 100, probably close to a million, you know. So, and really it helps offset some of the costs of our, you know, capital projects.
Right. Yeah, and that's what's clear is that's why when you look at the allocation,
Yeah.
it's where capital is expended or land, because it's whereas the police have a lot of labor costs, but not necessarily a lot of capital costs. So that's why
Yes,
it's somewhat
and,
skewed
you
as well.
know, when we looked at their projects, and we worked with all these departments to see what their projects, existing or future projects. And for the police department, I think they only wanted to probably add some expansion on their existing building and maybe buy some specialized vehicles, but, you know,
And this is a per new home.
per new home. And then also there's a commercial are charged by square foot.
So if it's a 2,000 foot home or a 20,000 foot home, is it the
It
same?
doesn't matter.
Same
Yeah,
fee?
you have to pay for it's for per dwelling.
Because it's the idea that, well, some dwellings could have more people, but the people drive the services needs.
It's the household.
The
and what they do.
household.
The
Right. It
household.
doesn't matter whether you live in a 2,000 or 20,000 square foot house. Or
Yeah.
if you live in, if we had multifamily apartments, it would be charged per unit. So if it's a 1,200 square foot apartment, they would be required to be charged the same amount as a 20,000 square foot house. So
And I'm not trying to be cheeky, but why is this a fee and not a tax? What makes it a fee compared to a tax?
I mean, there are very technical definitions of what constitutes a tax, but I think generally the concept is it's not going to a general fund. It's specifically tailored to the projects, and it's identified by statute as a fee that can be assessed by the jurisdictions. And there's a lot of steps you have to go through in order to be able to impose them. One is to adopt the comp plan with the CIE, and then go through all the steps that Jackie and the consultant went through and create the methodology and set up a system where credits and appeals can be made with respect to the assessment of those fees.
And when, Jackie, when is this assessed? Is it when they apply for a land disturbance permit, when they get their CO? When does the money actually get charged?
When they actually applied for a building permit. So that's already assessed to that.
Okay,
And
so it's a
then as
building.
far as payment, I think, I'm not sure.
They currently we're allowed to collect it anytime between when they apply for the permit and before their certificate of occupancy is issued.
So any time between building permit and CO.
CO. Yeah.
And how was the increase calculated? Like what it was in 2015 to now what's being
Well, so there's
proposed?
several factors that we looked at. Actually, good question. There's indexes like CPI. There's two others that I can't remember, but we factored that. Also the cost of materials. So all of that calculation, and then population increase as well. In fact, I want to just show you just a slide here, just So here's an excerpt of that methodology report and CIE that shows the projected population growth for Milton. Overall, the city is projected to add 15,122 people to its 2023 population. And so that's a 36% increase. So you're projected here, linear trend of 57,645 people. So, but, 36% of the future residents are not here yet today.
Yep.
So,
Right, because I mean.
So
as-
but this
as
is
develop-
projection.
And this
as
is
land available
just,
for
I
development
mean,
goes
this
down.
was just an analysis for the increase just for the city. This wasn't like, this is what other jurisdictions are also
Yes, this
increasing.
analysis is specific to City of Milton.
Only to the city of Milton.
Yeah, to the City of Milton.
And so is there a reason why it was only done last in 2015 versus now?
So there is no schedule, like a required time where you have to amend your impact fee, right? So, but the ideal is whenever you adopt a new comprehensive plan, that's when your green signal, oh, okay, I have to look at the impact fee, the CIE, so, but the DCA does not mention anything about every so-and-so year you have to do this amendment.
So what's the plan for the city now? Is it going to be something that's done like every 5 years?
So yes, we will try. So our next, whenever our next comprehensive plan is going to be adopted, then which is
Next year.
So that's the update. So I have to clarify that, whether we have to do that during the update or the full comprehensive plan, like the new one, every 10 years, right? Yeah.
Okay.
So it's either every 10 years or 5 years, depending. So for this one, since we just adopted, if we are going to adopt this new impact fee, then we're probably looking at maybe next 5 years to look at, same time as when we look at the comprehensive plan.
Jackie, in looking at the commercial impact
Yes.
fees, did you compare how our fees on commercial relate, whether that's retail or services and offices, how that compares to, let's say, Alpharetta or Roswell?
So we don't actually look at that like very specific to see what the commercial, when we did our due diligence, we look at just for the single family. So let me see if I have a slide here. So just a comparison, Johns Creek, by the way, doesn't have an impact fee program, so they're not collecting any impact fee. But comparing to Alpharetta, Roswell, and Sandy Springs, and this is just for a single family dwelling. As you can see, Milton is a little high compared to the neighboring jurisdictions.
So I thought Alpharetta was just.
I think they're working, no, it was Sandy Spring is currently working on theirs, so I'm not sure about Alpharetta. But maybe they are, working on it.
Any other questions on the?
So yeah, I have one more question, just in
Yeah.
terms of like, kind of from the city's perspective, like, does this come up a lot in conversations with developers who are like, oh, they're working on this project, and by the way, what is the impact fees that the city has? And is that something that kind of steers them away from maybe planning a project here?
I don't think there's a real
No,
factor.
nothing like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's really a pass-through, especially for the residential. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just the cost of doing business.
Okay.
I mean, especially at the price point that houses are sold and built here.
Yeah.
$10,000 is the price of a bathtub, probably.
Got it. So they just pass it
But I
on.
mean,
Yeah.
it's not like they're $200,000 homes that
Mm.
would make a difference. It's just a pass.
Yeah. No, which is why I'm also asking, like, on the flip side, is $3,000 increase from 2015 to 2024 even enough, right? Could it be more?
Well,
you know.
it does have to be tied to a specific, the methodology report established, going through that sets out what public services, capital projects are required by the city. And therefore it assigns, we can't bill more than we're going to need in terms of capital projects. So I think they've adopted 100% of what they can charge for.
But like how much in the future do those capital projects have to be completed by? Like, is that, hey, we've adopted this
I
is
think
going to be done in the next
if-
year?
If the funds have to be assigned and assessed within 6 years, they have to, I forget the technical word that's used, and I should remember it. But it has to be apportioned or it's accounted for. It's assigned to a project within 6 years. Otherwise, developers are entitled to a refund if it's not. But that doesn't typically become an issue because it's at least assigned to a project within that time period.
So once council adopts that maximum fee, they can't increase it. They can lower, but not increase that.
Now, if they did a
ceiling.
new study with a new
A new
methodology.
study, we need a new methodology report.
So then a part of the analysis of coming up with that amount was, hey, this is how much in capital projects we are expecting to spend in so many years from now.
Yeah, so that is the projects, projected needs and the capital projects. So city has to look at, 20 years from now, what are the capital projects that we need? What sort of improvements do we have to do or things like that. And then we account for all of that to come up with this exact amount for the impact fee.
And so that's build a new fire station, buy a new fire truck.
Yes.
Buy parkland, develop parkland. But, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so for parks, like anything related to purchasing land acquisitions that we can use for whether active or passive parks, any components in a park, baseball, even dog park was included here as, just proposal, a playground, picnic pavilion, all of that.
But this project list is coming through, is this some, like, let's say the comp plan, like the
No,
specific
this one is
project list?
Now, some projects may be tied to comp plan because if you look at the short-term work program, there are some certain projects that needs impact fee. So, but for this one, it looks like specific to recreation components, but I have to look at the short-term work program to see what's in there that's left that still needs impact fee.
But like who came up with these?
Of course, that comes from CD staff, Parks Rec department.
Is that part of the city's 5-year capital projects plan?
Yeah, some of it, like,
Fiscal plan?
so say for example, parks have they also have like their own comprehensive projects or comprehensive plans that talks about the projects that they are going to do for the city. So all of this, we didn't come up with this. It came from all of this several plans. That makes sense.
So who's managing that project
So
to make sure that they've accounted for,
it's the city staff, yeah.
taken public consideration? I don't know what the process is like. Is there a process?
So each of these projects are managed and monitored, of course, by each department. And then finance is also play a big part of here to kind of look at, okay, how much money that we receive and, that goes out to pay for this funding. So there's a thorough process that staff are doing to ensure that the list here, first and foremost, is active, and it's still, pretty much active list of all the projects that we have.
So
And
how do
same
we-
thing with projects for public works, for here, fire department. As you know, we are looking at building the new fire station 45 pretty soon. So So it's listed in this methodology report. And this comes, of course, from the department heads that say, hey, these are the projects that we are anticipating to do in the next 20 years. But currently, right now, we have this fire station. It's already, in the works. We have architecture already signed. DRB already approved it. And then the rest of this is more of like purchasing fire apparatus support vehicles.
So like, does this kind of come in front of council, for instance, every so often?
Yes.
Like,
Yep.
I mean, at some point, whoever's kind of managing from the city standpoint is presenting these things to council.
Yeah, in fact, we did present this.
I'm just trying to
council.
get at like making sure whether it's a committee like us or it's council, who is kind of still making sure that this is really thoroughly getting prepared, reviewed, the analysis is done, and then, yeah, obviously what's going to happen down the road too, but like figuring out the projects, and making sure that they've accounted for and thought of and planned, because that's the whole big thing with, with everything, with, comp plans and just anybody in the public who wants to make sure like what's going on here. This all goes back to, public parks and active parks and this, all of those things. So just trying to make sure and understand like how that works on the city end and like, is it really coming up in front of council every so often that
It does. So every year too, there's different opportunities that this is being presented to council. For one is the CIE annual update, which every year the council looks at it and then adopt it. We send it to DCA, and then after DCA approves it, then council adopts that report. And then also another opportunity is when they do their budgeting, you see departments sometimes bring up some of these projects in front of council. And then the methodology report. And also another opportunity is when they do their monthly strategic plan update. So some of that are being captured too. So. Yep.
Great. Further questions on the CIE impact fee? Okay, thank you, Jackie. I don't know if anyone noticed when Jackie introduced herself, she has a new last name.
Oh, yeah.
Congratulations.
Jennings now. When I started here, you know me as Jackie Lim.
Congrats.
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations.
Yep.
That's great.
All right,
We were
thank you.
busy with weddings this spring between Emily
Yes.
and.
Yeah.
Something's in the water.
But Emily's keeping her maiden name for here.
Her work.
Professionally.
Yes, thank you,
Thank you.
Jackie.
Yes.
Thank you.
I take it we are on to short-term rental discussion.
Yes. So basically, we have been working with our new interim community development director, Diana, and we've been kind of looking at short-term rentals and kind of starting to do data collection on that process. So we've been going to all the different boards and kind of asking the same set of questions because you guys are just such a great sample size of the whole city. So I'm just going to run through a list of questions, and you guys you don't all have to speak. If you feel moved to speak on one and not another, feel free. They're pretty generic, but we asked BZA last week or 2 weeks ago, and they gave us some great answers. So we're really just, whatever you have to say, we're here to listen, and we're just going to run through it kind of quick. So the first question is, are you aware of short-term rentals in your neighborhood, in your immediate area? What are we seeing out there?
We're not narking on anybody. We're just asking generally.
You don't want addresses, you just.
No, right, yeah.
Don't tell us.
Go ahead, Trey.
Yes, there is one on Doris Road. There's just been noise around the community about it, and there's been police called twice now, I think.
Short-term meaning less than a month?
Yes, less than a month,
Okay.
which is yeah.
I have heard of them. I'm not aware of any in my neighborhood, but I live in a small neighborhood. I have heard of them. I think maybe a year or so ago, I, out of curiosity, went on to the two popular sites to say, oh, there's listings here. So, but
Not immediate,
not
yeah.
aware of it personally, other than a year or so ago when I managed to see that they were available for rent.
Yeah, I mean, our HOA has looked into that. Well, actually, one of the things that would be helpful would be if you could write an HOA covenant that would be tested, proven, so you're not running 15 of these for the whole city, and then supply that to the HOAs so they can, for incorporation. That'd be a nice way to standardize things, not necessarily the city directly, but allow the HOAs to take control of that too. So I think that'd be helpful.
I'm not aware of any short-term rentals.
Nope.
All right, next question. This one goes along with it, but have any of you or your neighbors had issues with short-term rentals? I guess mostly Trey. You mentioned the police.
Okay.
I haven't noticed it. I think we were out of town both times that the police were called. I don't have a lot of details, but
Cool. Along the same lines, if short-term rentals were allowed, would multiple vehicles parked at a residence, some kind of social gathering impact the quality of life for your neighborhood? Kind of depends where you live, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. And just for clarification, I know a lot of people that will rent out their homes for filming, and they'll have people come and they do move out for the week, and so the production staff move in, but then they're gone in a week.
So we do have a media permit, film permits, so that's kind of covered
That's
under
separate,
that. So it's
okay.
usually.
It's different.
They use it for filming. I don't know of them that people stay there. It's more like it's the house that they're using
there's
for the
cars
set
parked
or the yard. But
Right.
that all goes through the film permit process.
And there is a permit for
Yeah.
that, separate from.
Yeah, so that's okay.
So I just wanted to clarify,
No,
we're
that's
not
a good
talking about film
comparison.
permits.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. And we review that internally and work out their traffic plan and where they're going to park and all that stuff before we issue it. Fourth question, would it matter if short-term rentals were allowed in large lots versus subdivision lots? I have a feeling about that. It's okay if we don't.
At what point do you stop being a short-term rental and turn into a country inn?
Neither. You can't. You have to get a use permit for a country inn. Basically, it would be, it's either way, it's illegal. Like if it's more than, well, it's not illegal. You can lease your house like for a 6-month lease or a 2-month lease. That's not illegal. Okay. So that it's maybe you're
less than a
thinking of
month.
more boarding house maybe thing. I don't know.
Okay,
My view is the larger the lot, it's proportional. The larger the lot, the bigger the party.
yes.
Okay, that's a good comment.
I agree with that.
what are the downsides? What are the downsides to having people rent their homes out like that? Is it parties? Is it?
Like mostly parties and, no feeling community and people just coming in and not
Transient.
treating it the same,
Yeah.
more transient, not treating it the same, anything the same as.
Transient activity.
Well, when I've heard of complaints when they call, it's a lot of it is not. Yeah, I know there's those one-offs with parties, but a lot of it is just this in and out, different people, different cars every 2 days. Like that's like not
Stability.
feeling safe. Like, okay, this isn't my normal neighbors, but it's just these strangers coming typically in a subdivision and not staying. And maybe they don't put the trash, it's kind of like that, just not having your neighbors.
Kind of like your example, you had 2 and they've had police there a couple of times already. Outside of your
But I
house,
don't-
how many other police?
That's 100%.
Outside of your house.
Failure rate on that property. In our case, it is a large lot. I'm not exactly sure which. I could find out, but it's a large lot and it's a guest home on the back of the property.
Oh, okay.
You can't see the house
Right.
from the road.
They must have made a lot of noise to call the police or something really bad happened.
Well, I think if I recall, someone at the house called the police because
Oh, I see.
there were
Oh, okay.
issues.
So, so everybody, what's your thought on the small versus large, or you're indifferent, or neither, or?
Neither.
Neither.
Either, okay.
Well, then that leads into, would you object to short-term rentals if the city was to oversee the requirements or ordinances associated with it?
No, I think it'd be appropriate.
Yes, okay.
Like we're saying, like, I think that the point of this question is if we allowed them, but implemented some kind of policing.
Right, well, there'd be an
Permitting
administration,
system.
registration, it's not to say they're going to be better to behave. It'll just be, we'll know about them and they'll be legalized. And we still can't really control what happens, but I guess there's an easier way to make sure that, that if there's perpetual problems with the location, I think there's more that we could do, so.
And that's how some of the neighboring cities monitor these things. They, put them to a permitting system and then they have to get registered, they have to get inspected by the fire marshal, and they go through kind of this process where the city knows where each one is and there's a little bit more control there. We're just looking, at all the options to kind of see what they are.
If you're just looking for feedback, I mean,
Yeah.
again,
We don't have any plans.
both times that I'm aware of them renting the house, they may have rented 100 times and only twice. So it may be that kind of data, but I think if the city puts a framework around it, then you're enabling it.
Right.
I agree.
And now more people are going to want to do it. And we're a city where enforcement's already difficult. And so I wouldn't personally, advocate for adding things that require more in code enforcement.
Good comment.
Agreed.
And so I think just as a little background, the reason Steve, the city manager, asked us to do a lot of this so we can present a lot of this information to the council and then they can kind of think through it and give direction to staff. So we're not saying yes, we're not saying no, we're just collecting data, trying to get an idea of the perspective of, a sampling of the citizens, which between all the boards, there's 60 or 70 of them. So I think that's pretty good.
I haven't had much of a feeling about it personally, but having set up kind of the community Facebook group for Doris Road, I would venture, I would bet every homeowner on Doris would show up in opposition.
Whether it was controlled or monitored by the city or not. that
Correct.
would- Yeah, right, okay.
And probably the city would get some unwanted appreciation or lack of appreciation for trying to go down that path.
Okay. That's good feedback. Anyone else? Thank you, guys. Do we want to talk about this?
Yeah, why don't you just, yeah.
One last thing, it's not on the agenda, so we're not going to vote on it tonight. We had to change the last two dates for the last two meetings of the year for Planning Commission. We'll bring this back next month, but the week of like Veterans Day, Thanksgiving being so late, all of the city meetings are condensed to like 2 weeks, last 2 months of the year. So we kind of had to flip-flop some dates. So the proposed schedule's on your desks, and we'll bring it back to vote on officially next month.
Cool.
But just a heads up as you plan your holiday travel that they'll both be moving to Thursdays.
I just had one other thing. I would encourage you as the Planning Commission to keep track of the updates at City Council on the planning for what I'll call Southeast Milton, sometimes referred to as the Deerfield overlay area. That is beginning in earnest. There's a consultant that has been engaged. I've been asked to be in that committee, and I'll probably ask one of the others of you, if not two of you, to kind of join in that effort of helping to kind of guide and give input of what's going on. I don't think the tagline has been announced yet, but kind of moving in the direction of, that plan that for some of you that were with us for several years started here when we said 3 years ago, one of our priorities is let's revitalize Deerfield. And so that is now moving to the next phase of a concrete plan. So, there was the high level, True North community, joint development with CID and Alpharetta, but this is trying to get more specific from basically down Highway 9 across Windward, Morris, Deerfield, that whole general area, and what do we want to look like in the future, and specifically, do we need to revise any code? Let's put in architectural standards. Let's look at zoning in that area and see if it will fit the future needs. So some exciting things there, and exciting things too with the potential acquisition of a park to kind of anchor that area. So keep up with that, and we'll probably get updates as we go along. Bob Buscemi is leading up that effort.
Speaking of that, what's going on with the construction on Highway 9? Have they restarted that yet, or is it still on a standstill?
Yeah, so the deal is, oh no, so it got stopped. You know that, right?
Right.
Okay. So Bob has been trying to, he's vigorously working with the state and actually high up state officials to basically, there was oversight. Okay, let's go back and look at this design. We want it to do it the way we want to do it since this situation happened. Well, let's take advantage of it. So that's how he's trying to work through that process. But we'll have him come to a planning commission and update you on, sometime in the next month or two, just so you all get an idea what's going on. So
great.
Yeah, that would be good, even the next meeting, because, first was since it will take a while for that to get remedied, let's remediate some of the work that has been done, repair some fence, I think
Right,
there's
yeah.
a list of requests that are going in for immediate things like repair the fences that were broken, resod, and then also let's replan and re-look at that area. And that will incorporate into this whole plan for Southeast Milton. So that it fits nicely with what Bob is working on in that effort.
Good.
Great. Anything else for the good of the order? Thank you all.
Motion to adjourn?
I have a motion from Brian to adjourn. Do I have a second?
A second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The rain has stopped. Run.
who seconded that?
I did.
Okay, Vic. I know.